Penguin Random House Audio presents Lift: How Women Can Reclaim Their Physical Power and Transform Their Lives. This is the author, Anne Marie Chaker. For my mother, Louise Langlois Chaker, who embodies strength, for my daughters, Juliet and Sylvie, who follow in her footsteps, and for Rick, the love of my life. Strength should be an attribute of all humanity. It's not a gift that belongs solely to the male of the species. Jan Todd, first woman to deadlift more than 400 pounds in 1976. People used to say that if women worked out, they would become masculine-looking or wouldn't be able to get pregnant. We just laughed because we knew they were wrong. Abby Pudgy Stockton, organizer of the first amateur athletic union-sanctioned weightlifting competition for women in 1947. There is no perfect time, no perfect opportunity, no perfect situation, no perfect moment. You either make it happen or you don't. You don't wait for it to fall in your lap. You take it. Maddie Rogers, World Weightlifting Championship silver medalist, 2017, 2019, 2021, and 2022. Introduction. In late 2014, I entered a tough phase in my life. My second daughter was born in December, and I was reeling from the effects of postpartum depression, barely sleeping, feeling anxious and unhinged. 2 weeks later, my father, who lived a few doors down from my house, died suddenly of a heart attack. The months that followed were a blur. Weekly visits to a marriage counselor with my husband weren't leading to the greater intimacy I had hoped for. What started as nightly half glasses of wine to take the edge off turned into full bottle binges. Food was an afterthought. It was whatever I consumed between morning coffee and evening wine, the stuff that came off my children's plates. I was treating my body like a waste bin. I went on like this for months. And then months became 2 years. I hated the reflection in the mirror. I looked bloated and sad. I hit a low point when I took a work call one Friday at 4 p.m. and could hear myself slurring words. I realized that it was time for a change one weekend in February 2019. That Saturday, I climbed in my car to drive my eldest daughter, who was nearly 8 at the time, to her ice hockey tournament. I'd recently signed up as a volunteer coach on her team, so I packed up the Subaru with my coaching gear, her hockey gear, and a stroller for the toddler. My husband had moved out a few months earlier, and single parenting was very new, so my mother joined on the passenger side. The idea was she'd watch the little one while I coached. So here I was, hoping to be a good role model for the girls on my daughter's team, all ages 8 and under, who were already receiving plenty of messages, implicitly and explicitly, that they didn't belong. As a mom coach, I was getting similarly snubbed by the dad coaches on the ice. Armed with my hockey skates and whistle, I was attempting to prove to the boys and their dads that women and girls belonged in this sport too, that we were strong and deserving. But as I pulled away with my mother at my side and the kids in the back, I had the most powerful feeling, like an itch I desperately needed to scratch. I needed a drink. I could not wait to hit the hotel minibar. I knew something needed to give. I just didn't know what. At some point, not long after we arrived at the hotel, checked in, and dropped our bags in the room, I noticed there was a small fitness area. I hadn't entered any kind of gym in a long time. I was barely exercising, attempting a jog here and there after the guilt from a binge of Doritos and Sauvignon Blanc. At the age of 42, I was still reeling from bringing 2 babies into the world. I didn't have anything that would constitute a workout routine. I'm not sure what possessed me to wander into the hotel gym, but that's where I saw her. A petite blonde woman in black shorts and a white racerback shirt, lifting barbells and dumbbells and pulling on resistance bands. She looked youthful, and her muscles popped when she exercised, reminding me of my rowing teammates in the college weight room more than 2 decades earlier. I also noticed she logged in her results on her phone. Her face was sweaty and determined, but also nonplussed, as if she had done this 1,000 times and knew what she was doing. the combination of her know-how and superhero physique was intriguing to me. I got up the nerve to introduce myself. She told me her name was Sarah, and it turned out her daughter was on the team I coached. I asked what sport or fitness regimen she followed. When she said she did bikini competitions, I tried not to laugh. She explained that this was part of the sport of bodybuilding, how she would get on stage and compete against other women in a bikini, and how her meal planning was entirely measured by macronutrients. I was amused but also intrigued by the discipline it must take and the knowledge she must have acquired from her training. When I was younger, I'd considered myself an athlete, even if somehow my body had never quite fit with whichever sport I tried. In high school, I was a figure skater until I realized I didn't have that ballerina svelte frame that the advanced girls all seemed to have. In college, I discovered rowing, which meant I also started lifting weights to get strong enough to compete. Soon enough, I got bumped from my seat on the boat for being too short, but continued to work out at the gym, at least while I was still in school. After I graduated and there weren't any more team meets or practices to attend, athletics disappeared into the distance. That construct, coach, team, practice schedule, was replaced by the unpredictable mess of life, which included student loans, rent to pay, bosses, and deadlines. If I did exercise, it was always as a kind of punishment for overindulging to try to make myself thinner. Being connected to my body, let alone pushing it to attain some sort of goal, was low on the priority list of real life. After I had kids, the situation worsened, with 2 new little humans competing for my time and energy. For the rest of that weekend at the tournament, I observed Sarah around the rink and how happy and fit she seemed. It wasn't just that she worked out a lot. She came across as a healthy person in general, interacting with her husband and children in a way that I found inspiring. Sunday morning at breakfast, I overheard Sarah and her husband negotiating when each of them was going to train that day, while the other handled the kids. I thought it was cool that they were both committed to their own fitness, but also supportive of the other person. When the ice hockey tournament ended, I piled our bags into the back of the station wagon, got into the driver's seat to pull away, and noticed Sarah in the parking lot. I rolled the window down and asked if I could email her for the name of her coach. While I certainly didn't have any aspirations to become a bodybuilder, Sarah had mentioned that her coach also provided nutrition and exercise consulting to non-competitive clients. I almost forgot about the exchange, but when I came home, Sarah's email with her coach's contact information was already in my inbox. Soon after that, I found myself working with a coach named Brandy Adams. I told Brandy that my primary goal was to get back in shape after a tough period in my life. I just wanted to feel good when I looked in the mirror. How hard is that, right? As a first step, Brandy asked me to start keeping a log of what I ate, and we found that daily calories were scattered and unpredictable. Some days as high as 2,600 and others as low as 880. And even though the number on the scale seemed reasonable for my height and stature, around 123 pounds, that weight didn't reflect how bad I was feeling and how my confidence had been sapped. My coach assigned daily weight-based workouts with exercises I worried would make me grow hair on my chest. Squats, deadlifts, bench presses. I hadn't held a barbell in decades, but I now wielded one and was able to throw on more weight each week. As the weeks went by, I could see nice changes in my body. I've always put on muscle pretty easily. My siblings and I all have wiry, mesomorphic body types with broad shoulders. Now, muscles reemerged in my legs and my arms, and my midsection was notably tighter. That summer, for the first time in a long time, I wore a 2-piece swimsuit. In my weightlifting sessions, I finally found a place where I fit. What I was learning with my coach's guidance was leading me to rethink my whole way of relating to my body and nutrition. What if instead of using exercise and food as a tool to diminish myself, I could use them to be more of myself? What if I could actually increase my strength and capacity through working out and eating more? I'd always feared carbs and fatty foods, assuming they would make me put on weight, but Brandy explained that accepting whole foods and eating more of them would help me build muscle while eliminating fat. My coach spoke to me like an athlete. At my highest point in the coming months, I would eat 2,600
Sample complete. Ready to continue?